Right guys and girls, Mark Crossfield here. Today we're talking about the driver tips you ought to know. So how you understand golf driver tips. There's so much information out there, good and bad. Fortunately, lots of bad. So here's some of the ideas that I just see people make, kind of these mistakes around some of the ideas that I'm saying, as well as lots of other pros. The driver tips you ought to know. This will help you understand the benefits and pitfalls of some of this free information that's so easily obtained nowadays. So number one, you need to make sure that you're hitting up on the ball with the driver rather than down. What does that mean? What are the issues with that? Now, if I hit my standard drive here, I'm someone who naturally hits up at the ball with my driver. So I'm hitting 3 up. My club is passing up as it strikes the ball. Now, the reason people say this is a good idea is it can help with extra distance. If you're hitting up at the ball, you've got more chance of maximizing distance than if you hit down, and where there's lots of truth in that. There's also a pattern that I find drivers of the golf ball, so amateur drivers of the golf ball, tend to fall into quite often, where they try and hit up at the ball and they don't actually get any longer, even though they do go from hitting down to hitting up. And this is one of the main tips you ought to know. So I'm going to tee this ball higher. I'm going to move the ball slightly forward in my stance. I'm going to put more tilts in, all things that we will say to try and help you hit up at the ball more, and I'm going to try and hit up at this ball more. So angle of attack, you can see here I've gone from 3 up to 6 up. So I've doubled how much up I'm hitting at that ball. So I've done what the golf driver tip has asked me to do. But what's happened is my loft has gone from nearly 14 degrees up to 19, nearly 20 degrees. So by hitting up more, simultaneously I've added more loft. Now what happens is I've just moved the same kind of launch conditions, but more up. And now I'm not getting any more distance. In fact, I'm getting more launch. For my instance, where I'm hitting some decent shots, bring my distance back a little bit. So hitting more up at it than hitting down is a good thing to do, but you've got to make sure other things fall in place. And what you'll notice with all these tips is that when you change one thing, you're going to need to maybe change 2 or 3. Otherwise, what happens is you might become a worse golfer. So for me, if I'm going to try and sustain 6 to 7 up at it, which will give me potential of maybe getting more distance, I can't go and deliver 20 degrees of loft. So now I've got a slightly different grip. I've gone slightly stronger in my hold. I'm going to use wrist angles that really try and take loft off. So I'm going to now hit up more, but at the same time I'm going to have to control my loft. So yes, there's potential that this one might be the longest. We're back down to 16 loft. I was 5 up, so 2 extra degrees of up, and I brought the loft down, not quite as far down as it was on the first shot, but I watched my driver video. I was told to hit up more. I did that, and I just started hitting it really high and often a bit more to the right, because hitting up my path might actually go a bit left. So what I've had to do is change my grip and my wrist angles to make that function. This is why one-to-one lessons just unbeatable when it comes to you making changes. Doesn't mean that golf videos aren't a bad thing. They might give you some ideas to go and talk to your pro about. Hitting up more, it's great. It can give you potential for hitting more distance, but it also can give you the potential for adding more loft. And then you've worked all this kind of hard ideas and really worked on your swing to not really go forwards. You have to manage the loft if you are going to change the angle of attack, because often, and not for everybody, they're so synced for golfers. Golf tip ideas number 2 you ought to be aware of: hanging back. So lots of golfers hit drivers and they hang back. They don't get up onto lead side. They don't get through the ball. So I'm going to hit one now where I hang back. But watch what's happening to that shot. It's actually finding pretty much target. But I mean, it's almost hitting the line. Oh, nearly hit the line. You could see on that swing, I hung back. I even pushed off my lead foot, like onto my back foot. My lead foot actually came off the ground, I think. So I've watched my golf driver tip, and I don't want to hang back because apparently that's a bad thing. So I'm now going to get up onto my lead. Oh, hang on, I've done what? So this is me hanging back. This is me trying to, in effect, find target. But obviously what I'm doing is I'm absolutely not getting through. You can see how far back I am. If you look at the plate here, this is actually rear foot. So the plate is hitting towards the right-hand side here. This is the lead foot. This is the rear foot. You can see I've got loads of pressure on my rear foot going through. You can see the lead foot, the front foot, it actually comes off. This is the definition of leaning back. But remember, this ball hit target. Face on, you can now see I'm really driving forwards. You can see I've got all my pressure here up on my front foot. I'm really trying to drive through. As we remember, this shot didn't go anywhere near target. So this is my path of my first hanging back one. I was 12 left. If we look at the next one, this is shot number 2, where I tried to get my pressure through, and you can see the path is straight, but look, the face is 10 open to the path. The fact the face is 10 open to the path gives me no right to get my pressures through. It gives me no chance of hitting target unless I do other things. Do you see where we're going here? That face was pointing 10 right of the path. So if you go move that pathway left, the face is a bit close to the target, slightly left, ball starts up the left and curves back. This one I swung 0 because I got my pressure through, but the face was still 10 open to the path. Ball started right and went right. That's not functional. So again, where I'm not saying you should hang back, you should be though, what you really should be thinking is not thinking, oh, I hang back, I need to fix that. The question is, why do you hang back? And for most people, the hanging back idea, irons and wood, so the idea of trying to get back foot, stay there and turn, and you see these funky swings on the course, is because people aren't managing the face. The face dictates so much about your funky movements. So getting your pressures through, trying to feel that you have hip bumps and turns and up through lead side, all those things are good, as long as you have some awareness of the face. So yet again, if I do want to get my pressures through, I'm going to have to use, for me on this instance, different wrist angles that I used on the first shot. First shot I extended lead wrist, so cut that wrist, where the second one I'm going to try and keep it a bit flatter. Again, you might want to check your grip to make sure you are not having to hang back to manage that. Now I will be able to hopefully get my pressures through and find somewhere near target. But it was the face control that allowed me to do that. Hanging back definitely can be a problem, but for lots of golfers, it's functional. Just watching that video to get your pressure through, it's actually going to make you worse. You've got to get these matchups working for you. Think about your club face control. If you're someone who is hanging back a lot, you want to work anything you can, wrist angles, check your grip to make sure the face has a bit more control to allow you to actually do that golf tip. And the last one, my favorite one, lag. The ideas of lag. So if we define lag as this two-dimensional idea of holding on to angles here on the downswing, trying to hold these on to let them all go as early as or as late as possible to encourage speed and better distance in your drives. For most golfers, this is absolutely destroying their games. Years and years of coaching, what I notice more than anything else is the more you try to get people to send those angles in their minds, take those angles out, the more they were able to line this end up with this end and not have massive face control issues. Little thing you can do at home while watching this video, or if you go to the range next time, just set up with a straight line with your driver, face pointing somewhere straight so the handle's in line with the face, and all I want you to do is just push that handle forwards. Just push it forwards. Don't twist the shaft around a D-loft, just push that handle forwards. What you're going to notice is the face points to the right. And the more I push this forwards and set this back, the more angle I'm already putting in there, which has to come out. If I have this all lined up and just move back, you can see there's more of the club pushing out behind me out of the screen. So getting everything lined up earlier for most golfers allows them not to hang back. It relates to that one. The more you get this way with your handle on the way down, the more you'll have to hang back to give yourself any chance of lining this up to try and hit a straighter drive. Now, if you are someone who's going to hit the ball with the handle way forwards because you're holding it onto this angle, which most people just will not take out, you are now going to have to add lots of wrist angles and turn that shaft around the axis and get that face coming back in. And look what that does to the loft. Push the handle forwards, face points right, turn it back around. Now I've got hardly any loft. Such a common problem with people who have been taught or worked on creating loads of lag over years. Again, for most golfers, the ideas of on the downswing actually taking these angles out, flattening lead wrist, trying to get that club out in front of you down at the bottom, gets them getting the face in control to the path so much better and hitting straight shots. Lag is such a key term that people do search for still and try to do. You see PGA posts of people in these positions. They're two-dimensional ideas that aren't actually true when you're looking at that face on camera, because this angle alone can affect how much appearing lag comes in there. Golfers, definitely. Trying to create more lag is brave and tough. Most people it hurts. Don't be afraid to take those angles out, otherwise you won't have control of the club face. You will have to hang back and you won't have control of your drives. Let me know if any of this makes sense, or you want me to go deeper into some of the subjects, the ones with lags and what have you. I've done other bigger videos on those ideas. Definitely with all the information that's out there, I think there's loads of great help that can really help golfers, but there's a lot of ideas that people try that just are not applicable for them. These are the ideas that you'll hear common, you know, hanging back, get your pressures through, making sure you're hitting up more to maximize distance. And there's truth in each one of these, but there are big pitfalls that I see big groups of golfers fall into when they come for lessons, where they say, I've been trying to do this. And I think, okay, first thing I'm going to look for is, are they falling into these buckets of mistakes? And generally, on the bigger percentage, they are. If you're changing anything in your golf swing, think, if I change one thing, that's going to change another dynamic, and do they match up? Do they help each other, or does one actually hurt the other? Most funky golf swings you see are there for a reason. Doesn't mean they can't be unpicked, but it's often more than one simple, brilliant YouTube video that just answered all your questions. That's how golfers get stuck going round in circles. Let me know if it's helped. Post comments down below if any of this makes sense. And again, if you want me to do more on any of these subjects, let me know in those comments below. Thanks for watching.